So I was just thinking about the meaning of life. It came to me. These are not your thoughts, these are the thoughts of the guy in Matrix as these waves impinge and mesh. So I was having a thought and it came to me, the meaning of life. I don't know, just bang. I was thinking about something else completely different. I think I was thinking a bit more about myself, and then it led to thinking about, the meaning of my life, like purpose and stuff. And then I think I rolled into this. It just stumbled along into the rock, the philosopher's stone of realization. I was walking along my thoughts, and then I just stubbed my toe on this rock. So I was thinking about the meaning of life. Well, this is Philosopher's Stoned tube, isn't it? You've seen the channel title? So I was walking along, stubbed my foot on the Philosopher's Stone rock, and realised, the meaning of life. Yeah, just happened, yeah. Just was not doing much. Discovered the meaning of life. That's how psychedelics work, children. So, I was thinking about it, and it came to me, as I said. I was thinking about it, and it hasn't been revealed, for how many centuries, how many epochs, creodes. For how long has man asked the question to themselves before any Hermetic philosophers or any Platos and Socrates and so on? I'm sure before them, men asked themselves, what about meaning? Maybe not all men, because some men might be organic portals, but, I think that the souled, let's just not go with that stuff because people will get offended. Let's say the concrescent humans, at least, would have had the thought about meaning, because they are like complexity knots of meaning. And that's how I think I stumbled across this thought too, and many of my other, philosophical deep thoughts. Like one quote I have that I made from me is, the future is set in the stone, and I mean, the philosopher's stone, and that to me is the alchemical mind of Earth, which to me is basically the forefront of God, or the most godliness that there is right now. You might say it like that. Anyway, so I was walking along, stubbed my toe on this rock, this crazy, silly idea that, man has asked themselves for a long time about the meaning of life, but then I realized, this is the realization and the epiphany part, the concrescent part, so I've left it till the end, that, at the end, it was revealed. What do I mean? At the end of history. Just recently now, with this whole 2012 end date, and it's not just a mind Bucktoon end date, I do think we need to look more closely at that Time Wave Zero software from Terence McKenna and just that idea, even if not those exact formulas, but it seems to be. But, even if we just take that idea of resonance theory that, past and future periods are in, synchronicity with each other, you might say, or in resonance with each other. Well, look, anyway, the realization was to me that at the end is the concrescent part, and that was the whole idea of his theory. I've actually had my own vision on that, and on concrescence, how things get kind of more narrowly complex in a way. Just the concrescent, like you walking in nature, you're a concrescence here, because you can just build this, even this pallet. No animal's going to build that pallet chair. Just something simple like that as an idea of how we are a concrescence. So the universe is constantly concressing, and I see it going like that, like the top of a pyramid, like asymptotic. And, the gold capstone on the top of the pyramid even had a more complex function than the other stones of the pyramid. That's how I always can self-explain from my point of view. Nothing to do with Egypt. I just think it's a good way to visualize asymptoty and concrescence. That's how I always explain it. So anyway, I was walking along and I stubbed my toe on this idea that in the end, this is the epiphany, in the end it was shown to us the meaning of life. And in the last days, and it's funny, when the time wave came about at the end, although it was there in the hexagrams in the I Ching, for instance, thousands of years ago. So that's a good example of past and future periods being in resonance. The ancient Taoist shamans drew up the little hexagrams, then thousands of years later, in that resonance, like, the higher resonance or the lower resonance of it or whatever is, Terence McKenna comes along, reads the I Ching, puts it into a Cartesian graph. And that's a good example of the resonance theory itself. But I wasn't thinking anything about McKenna or anything like that. I was just thinking about my life and my meaning, and then I realized in the end days we were shown. And like a quote I made, at the end of history, all the pieces lay strewn for anybody to pick up. And what I mean is, the pieces of the puzzle of what's going on here. We have simulation theory. We know what Planck length is. We've got the idea that reality is multidimensional, and etc., etc. It was all given to us at the end. This was not necessarily all worded. It wasn't languaged in thousands of years ago. Sure, maybe they had some idea, but you see what I'm saying? It's like we are pulled from the future via like perfection, basically. Even the idea to become the perfect man or woman or whatever, So anyway, back to the epiphany was that at the end we were shown the meaning of life, and it's that we're creators. And how do I know? Because this was the epiphany and the vision that came, and you get the vision, and then the visual gets passed through code, through your pineal and so on, into your limbic system, into your cortex if you're really good, cortical folds like me, and neocortex all the way to your ego. And that's how you have a conscious porous ego, if your brain is able to work it all the way through from vision into the neocortex, basically, through all the brain centers, like I just explained. So I realized then, in the end, we were shown, and this is the vision that came, that we were shown the meaning of life, after all. And the meaning of life is that you're to create, you're a creator. It doesn't come down to the meaning of life. The answer is one word, creation, maybe. I guess that would be the most compact way to say it, maybe. The most compact file version would be to holler one word and say, creation is the answer or the meaning to life. But look, the idea of the epiphany was that at the end it was shown because we created creations that created creations. So that's an infinity loop. You see, well, what do I mean? Well, we created robots, and they can create other robots, and then they can create other different life forms. And do you understand? Like, even we're going to be able to create chimeric creatures, everything. Unicorns will exist one day because, it's just, if you can imagine that stuff, of course we can create it eventually. Just might be 1,000 years away from how slow-ass our societies are going, but it will eventually happen. But, because this is how the universe is all in the moment, because you can see simultaneously in the past and the future in resonances, and that comes through vision and magnetic field disturbance and so on. And so if your magnetic field's disturbed a lot, you can't see as well in the luminous light inside, for instance, and that can happen by eating wrong and thinking wrong, and let's not get into that. But back to the epiphany, the meaning of life was shown at the end of history, at the end of human history here. The meaning of life has indeed been shown, that we are like the creators popping out of the previous creation cycle, which was all to create us, to come to a realization point that we are creating, basically. So there's the meaning of life. If the meaning of life then is to create, it gives you, full meaning instead of, oh, what's the meaning of life? Oh, I don't know what to create now. You see, so I really do think it is that thrill that kills the answer to something. There's always the thrill that kills the search. But yeah, I was thinking, that epiphany came to me, I should say. I wasn't thinking that, it just came upon me that that's the meaning of life, and that it was shown at the end. And where else would you expect it to be shown at the start? It would be more lackluster, like the journey to find out is what life was all about, like going through the motions to find out, going through the creation, instead of just being told the answer, then what? Then you just sit there forever. There's always that gnawing wanting to know and needing to know that drove us forward, and the need to see what we can create, the need to know, and that's what drove us forward. So if you were told the answer at the start, you wouldn't have that drive then through all those cycles. So yeah, take it or leave it. But that was just a little epiphany I had there, that at the end of human history, they say we're created in the image of God and stuff, and you look at the fractality of our hands and stuff. That's beetroot, not blood. If you look at the fractality of the human being and Fibonacci and all this business and Mandelbrot fractals, and and you take into account multidimensionality, because all those things I just mentioned, fractals and all that, that's 6-dimensional. That's just one dimension. And then there is, your physical dimension out here and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's all about creation though. All those dimensions as well. Anyway, I'm running out of battery here. There's always some problem with this technology, and that's how I know there is a forward motion and more complexity to come. More creation to come. So look, I think the epiphany was good. I think that was a good one. The meaning of life was shown to us at the end, and via us creating creations that can create themselves, other creations, and that being like an infinite loop. That's some kind of answer, the creation answer, that we are, not just creation passively occurring. We've jumped out of it now, and we are creators, we are able to create. So that's the meaning of life then, to create.